Russia is a country that begins in Europe and extends across northern Asia while bordering the Arctic Ocean and the North Pacific Ocean. It is the largest country in the world by landmass and is approximately 1.8 times the size of the US. The terrain is a vast Eurasian plain that stretches from the Pacific coast into Europe, separated only by the Ural Mountains in the middle with plains and low hills to the west. The taiga, which accounts for close to a quarter of the world's forested areas, is found in central Russia with coniferous forests and tundra in Siberia in the north. Mountains, large hills, and the steppes, which is the heart of Russian agriculture with its exceptional soil, line the south. Also, Russia has about 120,000 rivers with over 2 million freshwater and saltwater lakes. Russia is abundant in natural resources with major deposits of oil and is self-sufficient in all major industrial raw materials while having reserves of minerals with a potential value of up to $30 trillion, though there have been environmental issues and health concerns brought up in context of industrial activity in the acquisition of these resources, including air pollution, emissions, and deforestation. Russia includes almost all climate zones of the world except the tropical zone. Overall, Russia has a continental climate because its large landmass is away from the influence of the sea, which results in cold, dry, and long winters. This, along with regions more suited to agriculture receiving the highest level of rainfall and harbors to access major sea lanes in remote locations, all affect where people settle and what they build, which explains why large parts of the country do not have any people and are not developed.
The modern Russian population has experienced many unique trends which the Millennium Development Goals assess. One is the troubling matter of the great disparity in the life expectancy between the genders, which is the greatest in the world. This difference of 12 years has been attributed to the higher mortality rate of men within all age groups. The primary causative factors include rates of suicide, alcohol poisoning, and employment in hazardous conditions many times greater than that of the Russian women. Other trends within the Russian population include negative growth rates in its traditionally urban areas west of the Ural Mountains nearest Eastern Europe. While these populations are declining, the populations in Greater Siberia are increasing. Currently, Russia's rural areas are experiencing positive population growth. This places stress on the social infrastructure to provide increased access to healthcare and education to the rural citizenry. The overall Russian population currently has a negative growth rate. This growth rate is largely impacted by the fertility rate of 1.5 children per woman, which is consistent with that of most other developed countries, and as a result of the fact that the number of women in reproductive age will be lower in the near future. This is attributed to the economic transition experienced in Russia in the early 1990s as the country transitioned from a command economy to a free market economy. The new economic conditions allowed couples a greater ability to plan their lives with increased access to birth control options and to compel them to delay childbirth.
Russia was a centrally planned economy, which then changed due to the fall of the Soviet Union to a free market economy. Russia is not doing as well as it was a few years ago due to the lack of a diversified economy and dependency on the oil market. Russia is filled with many natural resources and is one of the world's leading producers of oil, gas, coal, steel, and primary aluminum. Russia's top agriculture crops include grain, sugar beets, sunflower seeds, vegetables, and fruits. Due to this reliance, Russia's economy thrived when oil prices increased, but is slowly tumbling as oil prices have fallen down to 40%. This worries many environmentalists because large amounts of non-renewable resources are being outsourced. Looking at a world view economically, Russia is behind US, China, and Japan in GDP, but is very comparable to India, Italy, and Canada. As far as the wealth distribution around the world, Russia's income level is comparable to the US and other European countries. Russia's economic wealth disparity within varies due to wealth inequality being extremely high. 84% of the shared wealth is held by the richest 10%. The reason for this large gap is due to the government's lack of regulations. The less wealthy are slowly losing jobs and government aid has been cut. A family who used to rely on government funding now depend on their homegrown vegetables. Some may prefer going back to communism because they believe that everything will be distributed equally.
Russia is famous for its former communist government and society, but is now a federal republic headed by a president and prime minister. The current president is Vladimir Putin. The Federal Assembly of Russia is like our Congress in that it is a bicameral legislation made up of the State Duma and the Federal Council. Presidents have 6-year terms and the government is split up into different ministries that create and change foreign and domestic policy. Russia's history has largely been characterized by conflict with different nations and organizations internationally and locally. Because of this, Russia has tended to slightly focus more on resolving these conflicts and disputes rather than on other issues. In recent years, Russia has increased its international development assistance policy that deals with providing aid to countries. The main goals of its policy include helping to create and promote democracy in nations receiving aid, yet many in the country still support the Communist Party of Russia. Another main goal includes assistance in overcoming humanitarian, natural, and environmental disasters. Russia has significantly expanded its participation in international efforts to achieve the Millennium Development Goals and has obtained the status of an active and responsible international donor, increasing its contribution to combating poverty, hunger, infectious diseases, and other global problems.